Manuel Campbell is the founder and CEO of Aspire Community Capital, a nonprofit committed to empowering entrepreneurs from underserved communities through business training, coaching, and development, and funding. He is responsible for organizational growth through securing and activating community partnerships, fundraising strategies, board development, and program development. Manuel is a leading local voice on diversity, race, and inclusion in entrepreneurship, and a community advocate for low to moderate income business owners through participation on panels and partnerships with a diverse range of for-profit and nonprofit organizations. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Manuel Campbell, and we're going to move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Terrence. And you can keep talking about me if you like. You know, we can just have a whole panel discussion about all my superlatives.
Okay, we can do that.
No, absolutely. But thank you again. I appreciate the introduction. And I just want to welcome everyone again to the Charlotte, the Minority Enterprise Development Week, affectionately known as Med Week 2020. We have an amazing panel of workforce development professionals who will share their insights and perspectives, and even some of their challenges and opportunities in this area. I have Jasmine Hines, Program Coordinator for Central Piedmont Community College, Marvin Kelley, Director of Construction and Trade Training at Goodwill Industries, and Deidre Sheppard-Calloway, Vice President of Programs for the Urban League. And Jasmine, why don't we just start with you and just kind of give a brief introduction of your organization and the work that you do.
Yes, and thank you all for having me on this panel. Good morning, Manuel. Good morning, panel. Good morning. As introduced, my name is Jasmine Hines. I'm the Program Coordinator for Corporate and Continuing Education at Central Piedmont Community College. Our college serves over 72,000 members of the community every year, and really excited about being here. My primary role at the college is to design career pathways, do-it-yourself classes, and then also my target market includes mid-year professionals as well as career professionals needing to update their license or obtain a license. So I have different markets that I pertain to, and I designed those coursework for them to learn about construction and construction area trades.
And Marvin, we can go with you next.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Marvin Kelley, and I serve as the Director of Goodwill Industries of the Southern Piedmont's Construction and Trade Training Program. So with that role, I oversee not only the program, but also the trade school facility. It's a facility that we have actually gutted and updated over the last couple of years. It used to be our old retail operations center, and we've transitioned it into a state-of-the-art facility. And with my work at Goodwill, it began back in 2013 as a employer engagement team member, where I got a chance to get out into the community, network with employers, and work with them as far as connecting some of our clientele with opportunities. And then from there, I brought those connections to the Goodwill University team. And that's the team that helps do a lot of our training internally as well as externally. And in that role, I became a senior development and training specialist. And there we helped to build out our information technology training program. And then from there, again, about 15 months ago, I took over as the construction and trade training program director. And I'm excited about building a pipeline of talent for the construction industry through that role. Thank you.
And thank you, Marvin. And Deidre, please.
Good morning, everyone. As has been mentioned, my name is Deidre Sheppard-Calloway, and I'm the VP of Programs for the Urban League of Central Carolinas, where I provide oversight to our programs and organizational operation overall. We serve nearly 2,000 folks a year through our programs and our services. Specifically, we strive to hit about 275 individuals to go through our certification training programs. So we've been in the community now for close to 42 years. I am new to Charlotte and the Urban League of Central Carolinas. However, I'm not new to the movement. I was formerly the program director for the Urban League of Nebraska. I moved here in 2018, but overall, I've been in the nonprofit sector for close to 20 years. So thanks for having me.
And thank you, Deidre, for that introduction. And I'd just like to dive immediately into our discussion today. And Jasmine, I kind of might kind of throw this at you initially. You know, as we kind of look at this new normal, kind of given the COVID environment and all the different transitions that we have had to make, how has your program significantly been reimagined? And how has Central Piedmont in and of itself kind of adjusted to this new normal as created, again, by this new environment that we're living in?
Well, first of all, I didn't say in my introduction, Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. Today is the first day in which the governor has signed a proclamation making that official. So I do want to say that to everyone. And in terms of adjusted, I would use adjusting to the COVID. It is a work in progress every day. And we do imagine that things can put us back into a place where we don't have to social distance, because so much of our training is hands-on. And I'm speaking very narrowly at my area, the construction trades area. So we are having to socially distance, wear the mask, and it has driven our numbers down. It has, and as the college overall, it has driven the numbers down, and it's driven numbers up with our virtual offerings. So it's a give and take. So we've had to be extremely innovative. We know that some program areas are using the GoCam, attaching themselves and being in the virtual environment, trying to make the experience as real for clients as possible. And we just work with the community and work with our partners to make that possible. So I would say it's an adjusting period, but very exciting for those that are creative and innovative. So thank you for the question.
Oh, thank you. And Deidre, I'd like to kind of get kind of the same perspective, in particular, kind of given the Urban League's rich footprint, both here in Charlotte, but nationally just as well. You know, how have you guys really reimagined some of your program offerings and embraced, if you will, as Jasmine shared, kind of adjusting to this new world that we're living in?
Sure. Well, we closed our physical doors on March 13th. It feels like March 823 though, right now. We're still adjusting, as Jasmine said. But however, we quickly pivoted to opening our virtual doors. We, both locally and nationally, have adopted a campaign to continue to inform, educate, and influence our partners, our clients and the communities that we serve about how to protect themselves, not only from the virus, but how to sustain their livelihoods and becoming economically sound throughout. So we try to strive and continue to do that. All of our programs, of course, as you can imagine, have now been offered online. We continue to have them facilitated by our very competent and highly skilled instructors. And thanks to Spectrum and their generosity, we were able to receive 50 laptops, and we were able to implement a computer loan program for those clients that lack the proper technology to be able to access a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams to be able to join in on the trainings that we offer. There are, on some occasion, to Jasmine's point, where we, especially when we're doing HVAC, because that is such a hands-on field, there's no doubt that we have to convene and bring individuals to a space. And so our instructor does a good job of making sure that he's following CDC guidelines and doing small group hands-on activities. So whereas we might have a class of 15, he might break it up with 3 per session to be able to do that. And just here recently, we've been able to acquire and purchase a software called Skill Mill, where it's kind of like a virtual training. And so again, they're able to, hone in on a particular unit component for an HVAC unit. And so I'm hopeful that it'll work and will, folks will be able to glean a closer insight by being able to use that type of technology. So fingers crossed.
I'm still stuck on Jasmine's GoCam. Like I feel like I need one of those in my life. And Marvin, you know, kind of giving both Deidre and Jasmine's insight, and in particular, kind of giving your experience, kind of coming into the workforce development space. How has Goodwill really adjusted its ability to market, recruit, and sustain people in their program, kind of given this new normal now? And do you see the same type of increase in your virtual platform, and unfortunately, perhaps a decrease in your in-person capabilities? Marvin, I think you're still on mute.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Sorry about that. But yeah, as far as our ability to reach out and retain folks in our virtual platforms, I think our social media presence, our marketing team has done a phenomenal job of just utilizing, again, all the various platforms from Facebook to Indeed to the various platforms to get the word out about our programs. Because as mentioned previously, back in March, we did have to close our doors, not only for the Opportunity Campus, but for the trade school for our adult training programs. But one of the great things about our partnership with Central Piedmont is we were able to collaboratively work together to be able to deliver our training program virtually. And so with the need in the marketplace, one of the things we had integrated early this year was information sessions. And so those used to take place in person at our trade school, but we were able to utilize our Zoom meetings and still get the word out to the industry. Through those Zoom meetings, we're not only able to talk about Goodwill, but about the construction industry. What are some of the things that are happening as far as, again, social distancing, the CDC, and everything that's going on in that industry, just to make sure that folks weren't scared. We had to give them the real as far as what's going on, but we wanted to make sure that they were aware that there are still needs in the industry to be able to work. And one of the things that we actually found out is, especially over the last like 2 to 3 months, is that the numbers have actually gone up for the needs in construction. And so that was a blessing for us to be able to do that. So we had our information sessions. We also were able to pivot and do a lot of assessments. Instead of them being in our facility, we were able to email them out and have those assessments taken remotely. In addition to that, one of the things we were able to find out was that a lot of our students actually had laptops. I mean, we had, of course, some issues, but more than we originally thought that would be the case, had laptops. We did have to help with some hotspots here and there and some issues with regards to that. But that was some data that we were actually impressed with the clientele that we were serving, that they had access to that. And so with that being the case, one of the things that we realized with our certifications is those laptops needed to have cameras so that they could authenticate that the person taking the test was actually who was behind the camera. And so those are some of the things that we've done. We've also done virtual job fairs and a lot of the virtual coaching, because we have career navigators that spend time with the students throughout the process. And even for folks who are coming through our front doors, we're able to pivot to where folks can schedule their appointments online. And so that actually, COVID in that regard has actually helped Goodwill to move things forward at an expedited rate.
Excellent. And Marvin, I don't believe any of your program participants would cheat on a test. So I'm certain. And Jasmine, just to kind of get a little insight from you as well, has Central Piedmont done any type of assessment to see kind of and better understand both the needs and wants of the participants, but also the needs and wants of the new workforce?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's such a, maybe I need a little bit clarity when you say the new workforce, because I don't know that the workforce per se has changed, but definitely like the standards, you know, going on to the job have changed a little bit. So for example, where we would prepare them before for in-person interviews, we're now having to prepare them for online interviews, right? So those kinds of needs have shifted a little bit in terms of getting folks work ready. And in terms of Central Piedmont, I think we're still assessing, like constant assessment. And that only comes through the students really letting us know their needs. And so we're very much adamant about keeping in contact with our students. I know when COVID first hit, our campus, our Harbor campus, did an all call. So every staff, every faculty person called the student to check in on them to make sure that they were okay, what did they need immediately, and how we could connect them to our resources to make sure that they were taken care of. So it's really become more of a community, one college model that we're using. All hands in, hey, this one person needs this, make sure that they get it. So we're doing our best in that regard. Of course, making available and known through all of our platforms that we are a resource for students that are in need, and never hesitate to ask. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Jasmine. And Deidre, has the Urban League done any assessments of its program participants, or as Jasmine shared, any insights with respect to what's currently needed in terms of the workforce?
So we didn't do a formal assessment per se, but we do offer a pre and post questionnaire. So the pre-questionnaire, kind of allows them to indicate what they expect to learn. And of course, we had those kind of COVID related questions. We had to, shift the language on those questionnaires just to make sure that they had the resources, whereas we might not be able to offer, like for the free food pickup locations, to make sure the individuals were addressing their food insecurities if they had any. And so we just wanted to make sure that we had at least a conduit, we could serve as a conduit to be able to get them to the proper resources. And, case management is just what you have to do in this world of nonprofit. And so, typically it's 4 weeks, 3 months, 6 months post completion, but not to say that during and within training, we had the liberty when we were on site to be able to pop into a classroom and be able to see how a Manuel or a Jasmine is doing. We don't shy away from that now. It's just that, by virtue of the cell phones and, if they're in a Zoom platform, if we have to take them to a breakout room to be able to have some private discussions or via email, that's just how we're functioning right now. And to Jasmine's point, not only are we doing the hard skills, but we also offer the life and the soft skills. So, as I just mentioned with life, things happen. And so we want to make sure that we're breaking down those barriers. Anything that might impede progress, we want to be able to assist in that regard. And then as it relates to those soft skills, again, as Jasmine mentioned, doing the interviewing, mock interviewing online, we also have the beauty of having a curriculum called Bring Your A Game, where we've used before, where we had workbooks and the likes, but now they too, it comes from the Work Center, the Ethic Development Center in Denver, Colorado. And so they had to shift and be online as well. And so now we have that curriculum that's in a web format. And so these individuals can still learn about the 7 basic principles on how to, kind of get the basic skills for work ethic, what it means to be able to show up to work, not only to obtain a job, but how to retain it. And so our goal is to make sure that individuals are at least making or getting past that probationary period. 9 times out of 10, if you make that 60 or 90-day probationary period, the likelihood of them not returning or not keeping it is shortened. So we just want to make sure that we're keeping that. And that curriculum as well, it's not really a certification, but it's an assessment. And so they have to pass with a 92% to make sure that they have, those 7 principles it instilled in them.
Excellent. And thank you, Deidre. I love to kind of get as deep and as wide as you like to go with your response to this question. But as we really think about the future of workforce development, what do any of you kind of perceive as what is really the future of workforce development, and how might we as a community embrace that?
And I can take that, or at least get us started. How about that?
Absolutely, Marvin.
Yeah, I think with regards to the future of workforce development, I think it's going to involve a lot of collaboration. I know we've already started going down that path. I know we're part of the CMS Workforce Development Collaborative, to where we work with some of the construction companies that have helped us to get onto work sites and get a behind the scenes look at what are some of the needs that the employers are looking for, so that we can integrate that into our training. So it's working with not only the employers, but also having a human-centered approach to where even integrating some of the things that the students are looking for as they grow within the industry. I think there's also going to be obviously an increased need for technology. I think that's happening in whatever industry you're in. I know that Deidre just talked about some of the technology that they're utilizing. I know for us, through grant funding that we'd received through Lowe's, what we've done is we brought in a company called Building Point Southeast that has done some mixed reality type training that allows you to see what's happening on a work site from time to time. So getting increased data with regards to what's going on in the industry and how folks are able to transition into the field and grow through each employer's program. So there's just a few things, but I think a lot of it's going to be based upon collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would second that emotion. Oh, sorry, Jasmine.
go for it.
I think the impact of and the skills gap with technology and in the workforce, it's going to be huge. We're going to have to target those workers to get them engaged in this red hot economy, because let's be honest, this is where the shift is going to be with an artificial intelligence. So we're just going to need to prepare for, in whatever shape it's going to take to get individuals who might lack those skills, the formal education and the skills needed to be able to retain those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take the question a little bit of a different direction, because Deidre and Marvin said everything so on point. But speaking more to like the human-centeredness of the times that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
I really think it's going to take some education around how we take care of ourselves as individuals in this environment. And I think that goes for everybody. And the ways of saying no as a complete sentence, that should be an acceptable thing moving forward when we're at capacity to just say, I've had enough today, right? So we need to be able to give space for people to be in their experience. As well as, I think this is an opportune time to really look at what equity means. To really put in the effort to do the assessments, to ask the questions, the key question of, so really what is equity? Because we know we've already been at a disparity in terms of Black and Indigenous Latino folk. We've seen all of the disparity studies, but now is the time to truly dig in and say, okay, what are the actual needs they are surfacing? And so we need to take that information into the future.
Absolutely.
I would agree. Just to jump on that, what Jasmine said, I mean, we have to look at those kind of inclusivity, diversity and inclusion. When we're talking about now, we're shifting to doing things online and having to address those biases, right? When you're seeing people, where you could kind of do an online application and you may not get to that point where you're interviewing, but now, I mean, it's a whole new world, and making sure that individuals that may not be well-versed and in that regard, that we can be able to train them up and give them the skills needed to be able to be successful in the interviewing process and all the way through hire.
And if I can add one more thing to that, is just adding deeper relationships with the employers, to where they're becoming more open and inclusive as it relates to work-based learning and apprenticeship type opportunities. Because again, before you would have to have a 4-year degree. Well, we're finding that is not necessarily the case. And so if they're able to build in succession plans and work-based learning where folks are able to come on site and show their capabilities that have come through programs like each of ours, then that's an opportunity for them to help to build that workforce.
And if I could, thanks for mentioning those things, Marvin, because we are seeing an uptick in industry. So industry will also be driving a lot of what we see in the future. And what we're seeing from industry right now is the request for internships, right? Shorter training sessions, more impactful, along with internships and apprenticeships, so that the student can work for them during the day, and then they get their education and credentials in the evenings and weekends. And a lot more companies are open to that and in support of that type of model.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I will say, I'm sorry. Can I add one more thing?
Please, Deidre.
And I think the times that we're living in, that people are finding themselves in a position where they have to reinvent themselves, right? They have to pause and reset and shift and figure out what they need to do to be able to maintain their livelihoods, right? And so I think we need to strike while the iron is hot, because we've got these trades. I mean, you look around Charlotte, it's Crane City. There are things coming up. It has not stopped. I'm just amazed at the apartment complexes and houses and buildings that are still being constructed. And there are so many jobs that need to be filled, but yet people, they just don't quite understand what it takes to be in these respective industries. And a lot of it comes from not being exposed, not having a full understanding of what it takes to get in these industries. As Marvin said, you may not necessarily need a 4-year degree. And so what we need to do to kind of, bring that sexy back as it relates to trades. And so that's what we're working on, to make sure that people understand, especially people of color, women in particular, because these are very lucrative careers once you get in.
And let's face it, the hands-on trades, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. I don't care how much technology, how much robotics you got in there. If something needs to be tightened and get in a tight corner, and you have to have hands-on. It's not going to go anywhere. So, but I think that maybe the reporting or the way things are done may shift ever so slightly. We already see it in materials, right? We see materials delays happening in the supply chain. So it just may have to, what does more local sourcing look like? Those questions are going to have to be answered.
I think also you're talking about mentorship. Finding folks who look like them in the industry, and those folks that are working for your Rogers Builders, your Turner Construction, your bigger companies, coming back and providing a platform where they're able to share what was it like for them to be able to get into the industry. I know Jasmine brought on a lady who works for Duke Energy, who's building the facility that's right next to the Gantt building. And I know that was extremely powerful for our students to see a woman of color who's doing that at an elite level. It really changed their perspective as to what is possible, versus thinking that they just have to stay at the lower level blue collar jobs, that there are opportunities for growth throughout the industry.
Yeah, her name is Crystal Smith, by the way. I just had to give her a shout out. She's
There you go.
She's super. She's the first Black woman to be working like on a sky. I think that thing is a skyscraper. It's massive.
Yeah.
Wow, excellent, and thank you all for that insight. That was quite impressive. And so for anyone who's watching or listening to this video, how would they kind of connect to the resources that each of you have talked about with respect to your organizations, and any other thoughts or insights you'd like to offer to the audience?
I'll put my information in the chat. That's how I'll start that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do the same. I mean, we have a website, we're on all the social media platforms. So we try to update our calendar and program events on those outlets as well.
Yeah, and same for Goodwill. Again, I'll put my information in the chat, but go ahead on out to goodwillsp.org. It'll give you a chance to see all the programs, even in addition to the construction training that we have access to. But again, we would love to hear from you. Again, we do information sessions monthly, just to educate folks on what the opportunities look like.
We do have a small business center at CPCC. If you go to the main website and just search small business, they have free webinars, free tools for folks that are looking to start their own business or already have a business and want to help grow. That's a unique and free tool that's available to the community. But as Marvin said, we also have industry partnerships that we love to create, expand. So there's like advisory committees if people wanted to get involved. We also have industry guest speakers that virtually come in these days to speak with the classes, and that mentorship. Marvin hit the nail on the head. Whether it's a large business or a small business, anyone can be a mentor.
And it looks like there is a question from the audience, and that question really is around kind of small business. What do you envision as the role of small business in this whole space of workforce development?
Small business are the epicenter of change, I think, for or individuals' lives at least. We see the bulk of small businesses hiring our graduates, giving them the opportunity, a stepping stone to get into the industry. So they're critical mass. We never have an advisory committee without small business representation. Their voices are as critical as anyone's.
Yeah, I would agree. And we try to leverage those small businesses, again, to Marvin's point about creating kind of that mentor-mentee opportunity. And so they seem to be a little bit more willing to want to be able to kind of reach back and bring someone along. And so we make it our business to ensure that they have an opportunity to speak directly to our students while in class. You know, like with our HVAC class, it's about 3.5 months, and usually within 4 weeks, we're bringing small business representatives in so that, you know, students can kind of get this glimmer of hope in their eyes, and there's this carrot that they can dangle out to say, hey, this could be me one day. And so we try to have those industry-specific recruiting events, and so that they can come in, get to know the students while they're going through. And typically we've seen that some of our graduates who have been hired on with these smaller organizations, they become our ambassadors, right? And so they tell their supervisors and the owners of these small companies, hey, I'm the product of the Urban League of Central Carolina's HVAC program, and it's an awesome, you know, opportunity for you to be able to recruit for those, you know, up and coming HVAC technicians. So we strive to keep our relationships tight with small businesses.
Excellent. And Marvin, one of the questions that was in the chat was really around the role of small business in workforce development. And I didn't know if you had any thoughts or insights about that as well. I think you're on mute, Marvin.
Yes, thank you for that question. Had a little technical difficulty there. But no, with small business, matter of fact, I saw Stephanie Burwell as part of this. She has been tremendous in one of her organizations, MMCA, to where they have participated in helping with mock interviews. They have brought in, again, speakers to assist with programs similar to what I was talking about earlier from a mentorship, expectation perspective of the industry. Because again, even for myself, they were instrumental because again, as of 15 months ago, I didn't know anything about construction. And so in order for me to bridge that gap and show, you know, some respect to the industry, I have to bring those employers in to just share from their vantage point. What is it going to take? What are they looking for? What type of instruction is required? What are the hands-on skills needed? And again, it's also an opportunity for those folks who may not have as much red tape to hire on a onesie and a twosie coming out of our program who may not have that 4-year degree. They can show proof of concept of the type of talent that we're producing.
Excellent, Marvin, and thank you. And you know, one of the things from my own personal experience, as well as being one of the leaders of my organization, is really around starting to think about entrepreneurship within the context of workforce development. And is that something that your organizations are embracing? And if so, in what way?
Absolutely. We have been having conversations internally about really trying to replicate what the Urban League of Greater Atlanta is doing, and they've created an entrepreneurship center. And so it allows those individuals to come in and learn the basics, you know, the one-on-one bookkeeping and invoicing and how to schedule appointments and you know, marketing and, you know, gaining the capital needed to be able to succeed. And let's be honest, you know, trying to get people to change that mindset and stop holding things so close to the vest. And so if you got 2 or 3, you know, mom and pop type businesses, how can you form together and kind of create this conglomerate, right? Why work, you know, harder and try to work smarter as you're trying to build your business and scale up? And so those are the things that we're trying to work on implementing here at the Urban League of Central Carolinas. And of course, you know, as I just mentioned about capital, you know, with the small nonprofit, you know, you've got to have you know, you got a lot more ingenuity than you've got money in the bank. So we've got grand wishes and a long wish list, but we too have to do fundraising in the proper, you know, kind of donor relationships in order to kind of create the revenue necessary to implement something like that. But it's coming. We're not going to let it go.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And there are, and I appreciate that, Deidre. Jasmine, Marvin, did you want to add anything to that?
I'd say on our end, one of the things that we try to help folks to learn is if you're coming maybe from an outside industry and you're transitioning into construction, we try to educate them on making sure that you're getting the experience necessary, that you've learned the tricks of the trade, that you've built a network, as Deidre talked about, you've gotten your capital together. Because again, sometimes folks will jump in and they have these great ideas, but they don't have any experience even in the trades.
Mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm.
it makes it real challenging for them to be successful. And that's the end goal, is for them to be successful in
Mm-hmm.
life, but also financially, because we don't
Mm-hmm.
want them to be, you know, a negative figure. We want them to be successful and be an example for others. And again, not to keep touting Stephanie Burwell, but her group at MMCA, they do an excellent job of educating folks in that realm as well.
Mm-hmm. And you know, go ahead, Jasmine, please.
I apologize. I just want to jump in and say, so I'm on the other end. I'm the hype man. I'm in the classroom saying, you could be an entrepreneur. You could own a company. You could own a company.
Right.
Like, I'm setting it up, right? I'm setting it up from the get. Like, everybody in this classroom can own their own company to help build the room that you're in. And we go through every single item until everyone has their own company and have named the company. And the reason I do that is to put in the forefront of their mind the possibilities, just the possibilities in construction is so vast and so wide and so needed. So, you know, 3 to 5 years, put your grind in, get your education, understand a trade, and then decide like, okay, maybe this is my trade. Try it all on, and then take the next 5 to 10 to set yourself up and specialize in that trade. Get all of the business acumen that you need. Like this thing is, in 10 years, it's going to look a lot different. It's going to look a lot different. It's going to take all people. But then the reality is that not everybody is a business owner. Not everybody is. Like, and we have to realize that not everybody has the life capacity for that, the supports that are necessary to be an entrepreneur. And that's okay too. If that's okay too, you can still have a lifelong career in construction and do really, really well.
Absolutely. And one of the questions that's in the chat was really around kind of the timeline for connecting individuals with job opportunities. For example, if someone has some positions to fill in the next 2 weeks, what's the process that they would go through to connect with some of the participants from your programs?
So I know for us, we have a workforce development specialist whose job it is to make sure that we're connecting our graduates with employers. And so if you have a job description that you can share with us, we'll make sure. We just had a class complete our HVAC training just about a month and a half ago. So I'm sure these folks are chomping at the bit to be able to get into these positions. We're actually in training session now with another HVAC class, and we have our CAS program as well that's going on. So as much information as we can have about the jobs that are out there that we can share with our students is all the better. And, you know, of course, the contact information, who's the main or the primary point of contact, you know, that we can have a direct connection to.
On our end, what I would say is, again, if you have opportunities, reach out to me, marvin.kelley@goodwillsp.org, regarding opportunities, and I will connect you to our employer engagement team. And that is pretty much their role, is to connect our graduates to employers in the industry. And one additional add to that, we've recently received some additional funding that will allow us to, I guess, work with employers, with graduates of our program for 4 weeks, where we will pay for them to be on site for 4 weeks, a stipend. And our goal is for that to be an opportunity for you to experience the talent that we have in our training room coming out of our classrooms for 4 weeks. Again, the goal is for them to be able to learn while they're earning, and also show you guys what we have available coming out of the classroom, and they get some experience. Because again, they could have been in our blueprint reading and estimating class, but they need to learn about carpentry and framing, and things of that nature. And so if it's a certain trade, then that allows them the opportunity to get that experience that is so desired.
Excellent.
And we
Go
have
ahead, please, Jasmine.
Yeah, we have a job board that we invite people to post their descriptions. It's internal job board, so students are more apt to look there first because they know that it's a direct line usually for hiring. So I posted the individuals who are in charge of that internal job board. Also, my contact information is in the chat. So if it's an area specific hire, usually going to the teachers is really effective for us to getting that immediate hire. The teachers know their students best, so I could forward it on to some of our teachers in that specific area.
And we too have a job board as well, and I put in our workforce development specialist name, Mr. Carl Moore, in the chat. And so if you need to send a hyperlink that we can put on our website, to access, I guess, your online application process, if you have one, or if you just want to be able to give us the job descriptions, we can try to put that on our job board as well.
And Marvin, if you don't mind putting that information that you just mentioned in the chat as well, that would be super. So any more questions from I don't see any more questions in the chat. I believe we got to everything. So this has been a great discussion. The feedback seems to be really good. I want to thank each of you for bringing your insights and perspectives again to this conversation and this topic. And I certainly look forward to speaking with you and everyone I think else wants to hear from you guys in the future. Terrence, I'll turn it over to you. Oh, yes,
Manuel,
please.
There was one more question came in the last minute. I apologize.
Okay.
It literally just came in. What current projects exist for candidates or students to work on? Sorry about that. That was the alarm going off. I guess to work on existing projects because they didn't finish their thought. But what current projects are you aware of for cancer students to participate in? And I guess that'll be for the panelists. So, are you aware of
go ahead, Terrence.
Go ahead. I assume they're asking questions about, I guess, as interning students working on projects. What opportunities are available for those who are coming into your programs to find some type of work experience while they're training?
The way that our classes are designed is for working individuals. So they have opportunity during the day to work, and then they attend the classes in the evenings on the weekend. So our internal structure is set up and conducive for working individuals. I think that's your question, right? Okay.
It was very vague, so I can't
Okay.
That's all I got.
And then we also have what's called work-based learning. So it's an element where the employer identifies days during the week when the student comes in to work, and then the student goes to class at the same time that they're working for the company. And it's kind of like suffice to say, a dating service, right? So like, see if this match works and on both sides, and if it works at the end, then they go into contract for the long haul. But that's one of the good ways that people can know, students and employers can know if it's a good fit.
Excellent. Anyone else? Okay. If you have additional questions asked, the Whoop app actually has a questions submission functionality. You can actually click on it and submit your questions. If you submit those, we'll send them to our panelists, and of course, hopefully we can get some answers back to you before the end of the week. But we are pretty busy this week. We'll see what happens, but we will respond to you when we're able to. Manuel, we'd like to thank you for the great job you did, and all the panelists and your organizations for participating. obviously in the circumstances we are now, finding work and being ready for work. In other words, preparation, ready for opportunity is key, because when the economy does open up, hopefully there's going to be a burst of job opportunities for persons, and we want to make sure they're ready for those jobs when they become available. That's just a fact. We want to be there.